back to turn 6 of War in the East. And today, as usual, we'll start going through what happened at the front, the German AI's dispositions, and my own, in my own turn. Then, for a change, we will go through a couple of under the hood, nuts and bolts, commanders reports and statistics. If you're not familiar with the game, this game has an amazing amount of detail that you don't really need to take part of or use or check out. But it's kind of interesting to follow and get immersion, realistic historical information and stuff like that. So we'll do a bit of that. And the last part, I will run through a single combat in the south, a counterattack. And after that, we'll do the Germans' AI turn together. And if you're not interested in that, you can just stop the video and skip to the next one when that will come out. Because what the German AI does at this very moment is not super interesting. I realize that. So, anyways, let's get right into it. The garrison in Tallinn holds strong for now. It's only a brigade and a regiment there, but I noticed their defense factor, which is the second sector number here on the counters, 27 is their defense. And oh, we have so many naval battalions there, AA, anti-air. They also managed to build up the fort to 36% towards fort level 3. But there is a single German division here, and you can cheat by hovering over it and see that their attack factor is 22. So it's going to be about a 1-to-1 attack. But unless the Germans send up one more infantry division here to take it out, it might actually hold a turn or two. We'll see about that. In the north, this is what the German AI did. He pushed up from Skov along the railway and pushed back my screening force of security forces from, well, north, south, west of Novgorod. I decided to call this line from Leningrad to Novgorod the Lenin line, and it's doing good, developing. But to test out the AI on normal settings, I have pushed out a few divisions, one hex outwards from Novgorod to delay the motorized division's approach here. Of course, that runs a risk of the Germans taking a detour north of Novgorod, breaking through the marshes here and kind of encircling it. So this would not have been a good idea to do against a very strong AI setting on 120% that I played on my first campaign. But since I'm playing on normal settings now, I think there will be a little bit more problem for the AI to push through here. And also, the hex that worries me the most is this clear hex to the southeast of Novgorod, but I have the strongest infantry unit there that I had available, and these heavy forest and marsh swamp hexes will protect me a bit. So we'll see how this works out. Other than that, we're doing nothing in the north. I would really like to try to hold the Staraya Rusia because it controls the railway into the Valdai Hills here and the railway line to Moscow from Leningrad, or the other way around, I suppose. And I am not super strong here, but on the other hand, the German infantry seems to be a turn or two behind. So actually, they don't have a lot of infantry. Okay, oh, here's some infantry, and they're gonna be able to advance almost up to the front in the next turn. But I guess this line here is reasonably strong. I will also mention that I deployed from the reserve. I had 11 infantry divisions available, and that should be above 100,000 men total on the map coming out next turn. And each of these sectors are getting a few reinforcements. Next we come down to Veliki Luki, which is maybe the sector that I feel is the most vulnerable at the moment. I placed it under the command of the Central Front and Marshal Budoyoni with his excellent moustache here. I mean, what can you do else but admire that That mustache is just excellent. And he has morale 6 and infantry 5. He's a decent administrator. He's bad at the initiative, but I don't think we need that much. So he's a decent front commander, Budyoni. He was an old crony from the Civil War to Stalin. So even though he was, well, I guess rather incompetent, he always stayed in high commands until he messed up too badly. Mm. So they're no longer under, I guess, Northwestern Front Command because it was a bit far down there. I railed in a single infantry division here to reinforce the line, and I think I deployed at least one infantry division from the reserve in this sector as well. But since there is two German infantry divisions creeping up on my, and these moved here, so they don't have any fortification level at all, and there's a big bunch of German infantry around Vitebsk here that might go towards Smolensk, or they could push up into this sector here. So this sector feels a bit weak. Next comes the Western Front. And the Western Front, oh, okay, the AI messed up again. They left Smolensk empty, and I just walked in there and recaptured it. This game and campaign is not about not exploiting the AI to make it a fair fight. I am more testing out the AI competence on normal level, so I will take advantage of any foul ups that the AI does, and now he has to push me out another time, and this is gonna slow him down a bit. I don't count on holding it, but it's a much better defensive terrain than the rest of the hexes around here, so obviously I put a division in there. I will also mention from previous turns, unless you watched the series or you've forgotten about it, that the AI managed to leave, I think, Minsk. They also left Brest-Litovsk. I didn't manage to get in there, and another important town. I can't remember which one that I recaptured. Well, you can go back and watch the series if that is. But it seems to be a problem with the AI that it leaves, and I'm considering reporting it in the after action thread that the developer started in the Matrix Games forums for AI behavior because they want to improve it. And we can also see another thing that the AI did not encircle any of my weak screening forces here in front of the Lenin line. Yeah. It's my cat. He says good morning to everyone. Because that's the risk. If you place a unit like I've done here in front of the front line, there's always the risk that the Germans will surround it and encircle it and destroy it in the next turn. But if you push it out the hex, you have further zone of control cover, which slows down the Germans. So I chosen to trust in the AI's incompetence and place my cavalry. Oh, I couldn't move it back further. Well, I didn't really have a choice there then. I could have taken it one hex further north though to protect it a little bit better, but it sits fine here in heavy woods hex. Anyways, back to the Western Front sector. Now, this is a fairly strong sector, but they do have a lot of armor around Smolensk here, but they don't have infantry support quite yet. They probably will reach the northern part of the line and be able to hit these divisions here, but there's not much it can do in form of an infantry assault with a armored formation breakthrough follow-up. So, and also we have a fairly decent tank army in this area, which has a lot of units on reserve as a secondary line, and I also railed in a new unit. The eastern part of the front got, I think, a few reinforcements coming in, so this bit of a line is, there's some holes still in the line, but still we only see two motorized divisions kind of threatening this part of the line, so I'm not overly concerned with how this looks. In the Bryansk sector, which is the Oral military district still, it hasn't transformed into a full front yet, it's still a military district. We have three mobile divisions parked, so I think he's planning to just push straight into Bryansk, but I have two divisions there ready to defend, a decent fortification level, and yeah, I can't afford more troops to defend Bryansk than two divisions for now. What worries me much more is the southern part of the Oral military district, and I guess the very north of the southwestern front here. It's the weak 43rd Army and also weak 21st Army, consisting of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 divisions, just holding the Desna River line here with some control. But considering we have a regiment here, Grossdeutschland, we have 1, 2, 3 armored divisions and 2 brigades, right? That's what he's got. So yeah, he can push through. He can encircle maybe 1 division, but I'm not willing to push to fall back more than I already am. A human player would surely try to eliminate, let's say, encircle maybe 2 divisions and create a gap and eliminate them. I'm not sure the AI is going to be capable of doing that. We'll see what happens. This is the way I decided to set it up, and it's just gonna have to stay there. But I have 4 mobile divisions, 3 tank divisions, and then a mech as kind of a secondary line. They are, oh, they're not even set up in reserve. I forgot about that. Let's do that real quick. Reserve means, unless you're familiar with the game, that they have a chance, depending on how competent the leader is, to, if the Germans attack the units in the front, the reserve units might activate and actually help in that battle. They'll kind of teleport into the battle, do the battle, but they won't move on the actual map. So it's kind of a distant support that you can get. But since these are not under an army command, they're under a Stavka command, I should really move an army to here and put them under an army command and put that under the Orel. There's going to be a very small chance that these divisions activate. And I don't quite know why I haven't put them under. Probably because I don't even have any decent tank commanders on the map in the armies that I have available. So it would matter very little. It would be a little bit better, but I kind of forgot about it. But anyway, I am a bit worried that these divisions here will try to encircle Bryansk from the south and create a kind of a semi-pocket here. Maybe not cut them off. Well, they could. I would be much more scared against a human player leaving gaps like this and maybe fall back. I don't know really. You're trading units for time, and that is the challenge for the Soviet player in summer 1941. Kiev holds with a thin screening line, but oh yeah, I think this is the town that they left open, Cherkasy. So I managed to get a security NKVD division in there with a decent defense of 18. That will slow these infantry regiments down a bit. But here is the main thrust of the southern armor groups. They have crossed the Dnieper to the north, and I had 1 division semi-encircled here, so it could only fall back 1, and it's a pretty good division with 53 morale over the national average or maximum of 50. So I don't want to lose it. So maybe I'm not killing my darlings here, and I decided to defend this river line, which I don't know what river this is. But anyway. And of course the flanks are open. Here in the swamp, it's a 3,000 division strong unready rifle division, so it's very sacrificial. But I just feel its zone of control will do better than falling back and leaving all these headquarters that I have here up here for some reason. I should not. This army needs to be here, the 6th Army, to defend, but you don't want German units to push your HQs because there's a chance that they might gain some fuel and supplies from kind of capturing the HQ dumps. Alright, let's... The 38th Army, these, okay, I can fall back a bit with these troops to up to Romney here. There we go. Alright, so we have the fairly strong 3rd Army covering the fronts, more or less here. Behind it, we have the tank army, 10th Tank Army, with quite a few tank and mechanized divisions on reserve as a secondary line, and then which is probably my best army, Rokossovsky's 12th army here, has a double line, a secondary line, and actually a third line, all on reserve. So it's gonna be hard for these German tank formations to push through in the center. So they can either choose to make a try to make a huge encirclement, or kind of change direction, go south or go north. Uh, and I don't want to fall back. It's turn 6, and they're already almost at Poltava, and Kharkov isn't that far away. So I'm willing to start, and they don't have infantry available for infantry assault with a follow-up of armored formations. So I'm just going to fight it out here in front of Poltava, and we'll see what happens. At Kharkov, I have some rather weak divisions forming a sort of a little defensive fortress line here. Well ahead of the Germans actually reaching there, but this is what I could spare to set up defenses ahead of time. In the Dnipropetrovsk area, we have the 31st Army and the 18th Army starting to build continuation of the Kharkov line here. Would these troops have been better off being put in position somewhere else? Honestly, I don't know. This is the way I deploy them, and that's the challenge. Playing the USSR, you don't really know exactly where you want to put your rather meager and limited forces early in the war. Next, we come to Odessa, where I now have 3 divisions inside the city fortress, and I naval transported successfully without any airstrikes or naval interception another division, rather strong division, the 282nd. So I now have 4 divisions. And as you can notice by the German or Axis deployments, there are only Romanian units, the blue ones, outside Odessa. And except for 9-9, that's a pretty strong division. Here's a 10-10 division. So, but these formations are not as strong as the German ones. So with a fortification level of 3 and 4 divisions, they kind of had to work on assaulting this. And the German formations are up here, which is the 11th Army and Army Group South. Yeah. They're pushing towards Kerch and Nikolaev, Kherson. So we'll see what happens in Odessa. I'm hoping to hold it for a couple of turns, gain some combat experience, and then evacuate maybe by sea, if possible. And we're keeping up a bit of fortification work on the Kerch Peninsula. I think that's about it. Oh, right. We will check the air map info. Yeah, we'll air operational groups. Okay, so the AI has now given me about 400 planes in Kharkov. That's I haven't deployed any air groups, so the AI did that. What else? They've given Southwestern Air Command 350 fighters. Okay. They've given Leningrad 150 fighters, and the Northwestern has. Oh, are those heavy bombers? Yeah, right. We were gonna go into a couple of the info screens here. Order of battle shows me that Germany has 3.4 million men. The Axis Minors has 1.2. Whereas I have only, the Soviets have only 2.4 million men. But there's another 100,000 coming out on the map next turn. Or actually, I think it's the number after in parentheses. That is the actual number. This is just how much the army would be if all division were totally filled up. I think that's what it means. But it doesn't. We don't have that many losses in our forces, so they're basically the same, these numbers. But you can see how detailed the game is. The Germans has 4,000 panzers, 300 Axis Minor. We have 5,000 tanks on the map, so we actually have more tanks, but the quality is of course much lower. Air Forces, we have 3,000 compared to the Axis total of almost 4,000, but at least we have more than none on the map. So here's one way where you can see the total forces. Why you can always watch your exact number of enemy forces? I think there should be a setting where you get just a limited information here with a sort of fog of war setting in the game menu, but there isn't. You can always see the exact number of forces and how much they have in reserve, etc. What else? Yeah, I could also check out the Far East has 600,000 men, Transcaucasus military district has 270,000, Northern Front 300,000. I'm not even sure if the Finns have attacked, but and yeah, my reserve is quite substantial. So I can get a quick overview how many forces I have. These theater boxes, for you not familiar with the game, are off-map boxes where you need to keep certain garrison numbers against the Japanese, Finnish, Persia, Turkey in the Transcaucasus box. We have losses. I'm not gonna. I mean, Germany lost, or Axis lost 68,000. We lost 870,000. So it's about 15 to 1 or something like that. Most of them have been captured, 600,000 prisoners of war. I think men disabled, some of them might come back. I'm not sure. You could also go in and see exactly how many tanks of each sort you have here if you want to. How many you built. We can see air losses, how we lost 4,400. That's not, yeah, we haven't lost that much since the first turn because we just pulled everything into the reserve. Whereas Germany has lost 700. I think that's quite a high number compared to when a human player controls them. At least if he knows what he's doing, which I certainly wouldn't know. Production screen, we're not gonna go, but here you can see what units you have in reserve, what you're building. You can see how many trucks you have, which takes care of both moving units and moving supply from the railway nets and the supply depots on the map out to units and headquarters. So what I need to do is kind of check, do I have this or that, this many of this airframe and this tank model and this artillery model, and then I can reinforce those units. If I have a lot of spare artillery of a type, I could design and order and produce an artillery unit that contains this artillery type. But I haven't really looked into this at all, but this is just how much detail you can go into if you want to. This is really what I wanted to show you. Here's the order of battle. You can see how we increased from 4 million to 5.2 million. I guess that's including, right, oh yeah, on map forces, men. First we took heavy losses, we were down to only 1.8. I guess this is map men. But now we increased up to 2.4, which is half of the Axis forces on the map really. Guns were increasing quite substantially, but we're still behind the Axis. Tanks, yep, we lost a lot of tanks in the first couple of turns, but now it evened out and we're superior to the Axis. Aircraft, here's the same. And here's the losses, manpower losses. One interesting pool might be manpower pool, and you can see how we started with 600,000 reserves. I know that Stalin ordered 800,000 conscripts and recruits and reserves mobilized in the spring of 1941. So I don't know why the Soviet Union starts with 600. Maybe the others are for other military districts, not the Western on map. So it's quite historical. But anyways, we have mobilized a lot of new formations. Oh my God, nearly over 300,000 men were thrown into divisions. So we only have 162,000. They're not recruits. Well, soldiers, manpower that we can put into divisions. So even though the Soviet Union has a lot of men, we don't have unlimited manpower, as you can see here. And that was about what I wanted to show you. I think that it's important to see how many units can I sacrifice to buy time. It's kind of considering. I'd rather see this increasing rather than decreasing. Alright, let's do our last thing for this turn, which is I have a cavalry division on the coast that got pushed back from around Odessa and retreated all the way back here, I think. But we have three divisions here, two infantry divisions and a mech division. And I was thinking I'm gonna try again. I actually attacked the first Romanian armor division once before on at the border, and that failed miserably. So now I was thinking I would sally out of Kherson and try to make a concentrated attack on it. So if I want to make a not a quick attack but a regular attack, it costs 16 movement points. But if I move here, I will have 18, and I think two movement factors or movement points will be enough to get me back inside the Kherson. So I'm planning to move out, attack, and then fall back, whether I push this unit back or not. It might not be enough to go back because I'm in zone of control if the attack fails. Now, do I want to spread them out and attack from two provinces, or do I want... Okay, we're all... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 9th Rifle Corps under... He's a good leader, Pavel Batov. So we have a good leader. So let's see how this works. So we'll move here first, and then we're going to press shift, and we'll make a deliberate attack. And as you can see, our odds this time, I don't know if you can see it on the pop-up, but it's 13.3 versus 2.6. So at least in odds ratio we have something like almost 5 to 1. Now let's see how the attack goes. So we made them retreat, and we lost 900 men, and they lost like 200 men. So even though the attack was successful, we lost like 3 times as many men. But that's to expect with the low quality of the forces you have as the Soviet. I'm just happy that we won a combat. And with no zone of control, we can move back into Kherson with the mech. A little bit hard to decide though is where are we going to position our infantry divisions. They have quite a lot of movement factors left, and I'm not sure I want to keep all the divisions inside Kherson, because even do they have any... Well, they have one fast mobile division. The rest is probably infantry here. I can't really see any... Oh, they have a mobile brigade, Slovakian, and a cavalry brigade, Romanian. They're decent fast. So there could be an encirclement of these 3 divisions next turn, and I don't want that to happen. So maybe what I'll do is put one behind the river line here. Or should I even spread them out up here? Or here's a ferry that you can cross if you control more hexes around the ferry. So maybe I want to place one behind the river to the south, so I'm next to the ferry, so the Germans can't cross here. So let's say the Germans hold these 2 hexes, and I hold these 2. I think you have to have more to be able to cross. I think that's what I'll do. I'll place one division in Kherson, and I'll place another one behind to make it harder for the Germans to encircle me. I'm not exactly sure how far these troops can get. Maybe they're able to... Here's another thing. They could go down and make it very hard for me to... Oh, it's a port. Kherson is a port. I could make a naval evacuation down to Sevastopol, worst case. That means I didn't need this cavalry division to... this is the only unit I didn't move, because I wanted to have it as kind of see what happened with the attack, how exposed I was. Maybe I want to place this cavalry division up here to make it harder to make this left hook down to the sea cutoff of Kherson maneuver possible. I would also like to put it in reserve to rest it up, because it is quite battered since it was bashed around Odessa. That's a very, very tough decision. You know, I think I'll position it here on the railway this turn, and I'll put it into reserve, even though it doesn't have a lot of. Actually, shouldn't I put it into the 9th Rifle Corps? I should. There we go. Okay, that's our defensive line for next turn. And with that, I'm just gonna make a quick save in case something goes terribly wrong. Not with the game, but with my computer or the application. And now we're gonna end the turn. And if you don't want to watch the German AI move, you can just stop the video now, and I hope to see you on turn 7. But for you others that want to stay, here we go. We have, oh, I have automated air supply into, well, that's the only supply that's probably going to be given away to the Germans as far as I'm concerned, but thank you, AI. I'm not even sure the infantry unit in there is going to get to kind of soak up these supplies, because that will be in the next logistics phase, which is after the Germans have moved, and I fully expect them to push me out again. So this, I suppose I could have given directives to the air AI and what I wanted to do. I could probably have disabled air supply missions. Oh, we are getting a save automatically there at the end of the turn. There's a lot of stuff going on with the AI. I don't even have time to read what's going on, but it's doing all sorts of stuff. Rail repair is very important. The Axis have a couple of, only a handful, like 4 rail construction units that can construct a few key railways and push the rail heads where the German units can draw supply from ahead as fast as possible. And that is the main German concern and challenge when you play as the Germans, to push your railway construction units as far east as possible, as fast as possible. Otherwise your panzer is going to run out of fuel and supply sooner rather than later. I am having a lot of fun playing this version. I think this patch feels very good and stable and balanced. And yeah, I'm enjoying. I always enjoy this game series. The first was good, but War and Peace 2 is much better. And I didn't feel there was a lot of. They worked set how long you want it to remain. You can even pause it, but you have to be really quick. I'll try to pause. So these are the AI's priority attacks. Not quite sure what that means, but his most important attacks. So now we pause this, and I don't. Okay, so there's a fire range, which means the the units or subunits of this division that has the longest range gets to fire first, and the Germans as well. And they roll for initiative and stuff like that, and they inflict damage. And then when we continue, we can see how we halted them at 800 meters. We only took 11 losses to 20. So the Germans don't take a lot of losses, even if they do kind of a bad or shabby or not very strong attack, because they're so well trained, their leaders are so good, their initiative and their morale is so good. So they basically transform a failed attack into like just a scouting operation or an attack with very few losses. So we might gain some experience and some morale from this, and we can also possibly, this could become a guard unit if we win a lot of battles. It used to be 10, but I have a feeling you can be transformed into a guard division with maybe say between 5 or 10 battles. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this. But I'm very happy with every held result. A human player would not do as many weaker attacks as the AI does, I believe. Okay, this was at Velikeluki, so I'm very happy this held at least the first attack. Because this hex juts out with a river around it and a light forest and a level 1 fort, so they were in a fairly good defensive position. But I don't think it would have held against a higher level AI difficulty. We held them off again, second time, I believe. Third time. So that's 3 experience victories for... And I think the leader can become promoted or get better. Oh, now here's comes a 4th very heavy attack. Yeah, and it was routed and we lost 10,000 men. Why we lost so many is because we have bad morale, leadership, initiative, etc., etc. We just have bad. And he crossed the river line, and he's going all out for Velikeluki, as I expected. Retreated, at least we didn't rout. We lost 500 men. To the axis 300. That's a pretty good, decent attack, and our line is still intact. So, but they have crossed the river line. Okay, now I definitely need to reinforce this sector here. Okay, they're trying to take Smolensk again. Failed attack. Yeah, you should not have left it open, AI. That was not a good move. But now comes the real attack. Oh my god, I held it up with incredible odds and he lost 1,600 men. 1,000 men. And that's from Panzer divisions. 37 tanks he lost to get rout me. I lost 3,000, but he lost 37 tanks. Yeah, I'm not terribly impressed with losing Smolensk and having to retake it with your best panzer forces, just charging headlong into urban terrain. Okay, he's moving south. He's moving south. He did not attack assault Bryansk with his panzers. We surrendered here. Yeah, he's got the infantry. What I figured around Kiev is if this slows down the infantry for 1 week, 1 turn, I'm happy with that. Later on, that might just be the the turn that allows me to defend Stalin or Kharkov before mud or bad weather, whatever. Oh, he scouted my retreating elite division here. Good. I think we got a reserve activation. That's probably why we held it. No reserve activation, and yet we held it. Oh, it's a Romanian cavalry brigade attacking. So what the AI does is it makes weaker, smaller attacks to weaken the defender. Because we waste ammunition and we get tired, we get fatigue. But that allows the Soviet troops to gain experience, morale, and guard development victories. There's so many held results. My anti-tank brigade in the second line activated as a reserve because I have it under decent leadership, I believe. Now he routed and we lost 2,300 men. So you can see here how the AI doesn't quite use his mobile formations to make sweeping maneuvers and circlements. He just pushes through straight ahead. We were scouted. That is a bad attack transformed into a better. It's actually better to have scouted than a failed attack, because you get lighter losses as the Germans. So that's two won battles. And they finally managed to make us retreat out of Kharkov. But it cost them a week to take Kharkov. I'm happy with that. We still hold the river line for now. Let's see what they're gonna do with their remaining tank division. Okay, he's moving up here to the north. Now the 11th Army is very strong. He has good units, so there's nothing we can do to stop them. We just want to slow them down. And that was it. We're into air transport. Can we see where there are air transporting stuff? No, not really. Luftwaffe 4. These are Hungarian planes. 13 tons of freight. Alright. I don't see where they are delivering it though. They always almost manage to get a railhead all the way to Odessa. But since the AI has chosen to develop this railway line, they need to take Odessa to continue towards Kerch and, well, the rest of the Donbas area. So as long as I hold this, their railway development is going to be severely halted. I feel very happy with that turn. That was a very successful Soviet turn. Sure, we lost Kherson, we lost Smolensk. We had a few routes with heavy casualties, but all in all, this was not a great turn for the Axis. And I think I will end the stream here, and I'll keep you in suspense, I hope, for the next week. I will not show what the Germans achieved, but because you'll have to wait until the next turn to see that. So I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.